It's the highly anticipated return of John Calipari to Rupp Arena this Saturday as the Arkansas Razorbacks take on the Kentucky Wildcats. But it's also the return of DJ Wagner, Adou Thiero, and Big Z. Also, Tennessee needs a bounce back in their rematch with Florida. Auburn hits the road to face Chris Beard and Ole Miss, and Missouri heads to the Hump to face Mississippi State.
Plus, wins have been tough to come by in this conference, but we got some massive ones to talk about in the rebound after Kentucky knocks off Tennessee and Alabama takes down Mississippi State.
All this and more today on the Hoops Southbound Show. One thing you definitely said in there that I 100% believe this season is that road wins have come at a premium in this conference, and there were some huge ones this week in the SEC, and I just 100% a lot of great basketball to watch this week because of it.
Definitely, it's been a weird week, just kind of overall, but then you add in these crazy basketball games that we talked about were kind of these coin flip games, and I don't think any of them went how we expected.
A lot of them didn't. But I'll tell you what, like the first one that we've got on deck to talk about today in the rebound is, I mean, he just keeps doing the thing. I mean, if it's a top 10 opponent for Kentucky, I mean, you might as well throw everything else out the window.
I mean, it seems like all Mark Pope does is win when it comes to big basketball games. Add this one to the tally. Like you said, another top win this season for Kentucky. They take down Tennessee at home 78-73.
It's another top 10 win for Mark Pope. He's only got one loss, I believe, to top 10 teams that he's faced this season. Won several of them, and this made, no difference to him. And I mean, in this game, you got no Lamont Butler. You got no Andrew Carr. Kentucky's going out. They're red hot from three in this game. They shot an astounding percentage in this one. But it was still really close at halftime. It was a very competitive basketball game. But like coming out of the locker room, Kentucky jumped out at half. They really got that lead going, and it looked like Kentucky was going to cruise in TBA. But then Tennessee had this late surge of defense that really got them right back into the basketball game. And you're like, oh, here we go. And you thought, like, with the combination of this defense causing turnovers and getting Tennessee a chance, like, in the home crowd behind them, you really just thought that maybe Tennessee was going to pull this thing out. Vols hit a stretch, though, where they had 5 straight missed threes. Extremely costly to making this comeback. And, yeah, I'll get into that a little bit more in a second. But Kentucky's defense, first off, huge win. Huge win for Kentucky. Important win, quad one win, doing their job. They're racking up the quad ones. They're looking like they're going to be a top 16 seed, probably somewhere as a 3 right now. But they're in great shape right now to make the NCAA tournament in a very good seed in the spot you want to be in for this team. Like we've mentioned, Mark Pope is right now on track to break the record with the most top 25 wins by a coach in Kentucky history in a single season. Now, granted, part of that is because of how good the SEC is this season, that he's being presented a lot more opportunities than previous coaches. But I mean, it's still dang impressive to be doing it.
Yeah, especially like you said, as a first year coach, absolutely wild. Like you mentioned, this Tennessee team generally isn't one to be messed with, especially when you take into consideration their defense. If they were to win this game, it 100% would have been based on that defense. But Kentucky was just lights out. I mean, I feel like there were several possessions that I watched. You had at least 2 guys on somebody. They threw up a prayer, and it's like a magnet to the basket because they couldn't miss.
I mean, Kentucky in this game, when you come down to the stats here, they were 50% from the field and 50% from three, hitting 12 3-point field goals made. Big catalyst point when Kentucky's shooting well from three, they're one of the best teams in the country. like nonstop, like really could put up some numbers and do some serious damage. They were competitive on the boards. They only lost the rebound differential by 3 rebounds in this game. They had 14 assists on 25 made baskets, so almost 2 for 1 on that. Moved the ball well. They got a few fast break points, but did really well in the paint as well, picking up just -4 with 20 points in the paint in this one. And that's really a big part of that is because of what Amari Williams was able to do. He had 15 boards and 10 rebounds in this game. And then the other big man, Brandon Garrison, comes down with 2 rebounds of his own in this one in the 2 minutes that he played. Andrew Carr played a minute. It's kind of weird. I don't even remember seeing Andrew Carr, but in the back of my head, I was like, he's not playing. So like I clearly missed that 1 minute where Andrew Carr was playing when I'm looking at the box sheet. So I don't recall it, and I probably many Kentucky fans probably don't recall it either. But yeah, you had a great performance from him, and then Jackson Robinson has continued to play at a very high level, going 4 for 9 in this game from 3 as well. The offensive production in combination with some decent defense at times from Kentucky really got them across the finish line in this game. I do want to turn to the Tennessee thing because Kentucky fans, I'm going to sing your praises. You did great. You got a huge win. Everything was awesome. Everything great, great basketball game for Kentucky. Now plug your ears. Tennessee should have won this stupid basketball game. Like this, it's ridiculous. Probably some of the stupidest basketball I've seen played thus far this season got played down the stretch by Tennessee. I mean, it was absolutely wild how bad the ending stretch of this game was. When you look at it, like there was this series here where what was it? I'm just going to scroll down here when you look at the final 15 here in the second half. So you've got the fouls in combination of missed 3. Darling Stone DeBar misses a 3. And then they had another one where another missed 3, another missed 3. Meshack makes a couple of free throws, another missed 3 by Lanier. Why are you shooting this many threes? Like the issue is late in this game is that Kentucky wasn't hitting at the rate that they were hitting. They finally hit a low offensively. And there's plenty of time on the clock. It's still a relatively manageable game. When your opponent is missing like that, take advantage. Go get those easy 2s. Go find the 2s. You are winning in the paint. Go get the 2s. Don't be jacking up 5, 6 threes in a row on each possession. I mean, it was horrible. Horrible. Some of the worst coaching I've seen so far this season comes from one of the best coaches in the SEC. Like Rick Barnes said, like they were a few possessions better. Yeah, I can point to the possessions for sure where Kentucky was better and they weren't even scoring. Y'all did poor, like finishing this game. I'm still losing my mind on just how shocked I was that Tennessee did just not stick to a blueprint of who they are and just completely flip to, we're going to shoot threes and shoot ourselves out of this problem. No, you got it. Like literally, if they had gone to the paint and pulled points on half those possessions there late in the game, we're talking overtime or a close game where Tennessee wins late. Like they should have won this basketball game, but some really poor decision making cost them in this game. And that's not to take away from Kentucky.
Definitely a series of some low basketball IQ from the Tennessee side of things. I mean, you had a couple of, I distinctly remember a couple in that series where somebody was wide open and someone was closing in. So they're like, I'm just going to throw up a prayer. Like that is how I felt. It was panicked. It wasn't well coordinated. I feel like if you would have taken, the extra dribble, extra pass, anything could have led to, hopefully getting them out of that drought that they took for almost the remainder of the basketball game.
There was a point Zakai Ziegler is a 28-something, 29% something 3-point shooter this season. Your best option was Jordan Gainey from 3 or Igor Milicic or Chaz Lanier, and Chaz Lanier was struggling. But for whatever reason, they went down there, shot a 3, got an offensive rebound, shot another 3, missed both those 3s, got another board, and then shot another 3. And they were only down 6 with 5 minutes left to play or something like that. It was what are you doing? Get the 2, make it a 2-possession basketball game. Just take the easy points. If you get the offensive rebound under the goal, with plenty of time to play, and you don't need the three. Just put the ball on the glass and get it in the hoop and take the two. Like, I was just baffled by some of that poor decision making. And some of them were open. But like that was exactly what we've been talking about with the inconsistency with Tennessee's offense, is that they can be just frustratingly inconsistent, especially behind the arc.
Yeah, it was just a weird basketball game to watch because it didn't feel like the Tennessee team, especially the Tennessee team that was ranked number one a couple of weeks ago.
I just didn't understand the functionality of what they were doing late in this game. A lot of baffling possessions, but like I said, we can go on that. It's praises for Kentucky. They did a great job without some of their star players, getting the job done on the road, won enough possessions defensively, and had an awesome shooting night to where their offensive game plan was rolling on the road. It was a perfect game by them. Well, not perfect, but perfect result that they're dying for over there with a great win and another resume point that keeps them a top 16 seed. It's a baffling ending for Tennessee in this basketball game, and a game they should have won. They should have won that game, and that's what's crazy to me is this like that's what's frustrating about it. If you've invested time and interest in Tennessee basketball, like I have become since doing this podcast, yeah, you're interested in it. And now it's like, what are y'all doing, man? Like, this is poor basketball there late in the game. Just very frustrating for anybody who follows that team for an extended period of time. Let's move on to something else before I just keep ranting about how Rick Barnes led his team or the game plan did not work down. I just, he's regular season Rick. Like, what happened? You're supposed to be good in the regular. Let's move on. Nail biter in the hump, as good as advertised for a Wednesday night classic. But Alabama survives on the road to take down Mississippi State 88-84. Maddie, your thoughts in this one?
This game was, we kind of called it. This one was going to be a close game, but I think this is a game like you said for Tennessee. This is a game I feel like Mississippi State could have won and had several opportunities to do so, but made some low IQ basketball plays that led to Alabama coming back, bouncing back, getting three after three there for a minute, and kind of washing out Mississippi State.
It was a extremely tight basketball game. Nate Oates was also frustrated, but they get the win in this one. But let's hit the highlights here first. Alabama ended up with 4 double-digit scorers in this game, and Chris Youngblood, who we've been waiting on because we know he's an excellent scorer, has stepped up, and he stepped up big time in this game with 23 points. With this one, it was a career night for Chris Youngblood. He went like something like 7 for 10 shooting from three in this game. It was an exceptional night for him. It's exactly what Alabama has needed since the Latrell Wrightsell injury, and getting Chris Youngblood back takes this team to a whole different level when you have that consistent threat out there. If Chris Youngblood can replicate shooting at a high percentage throughout the season, he doesn't have to go 70% every night, but if he can keep that doing what he's doing, that makes Alabama a better basketball team. Then Sears had 17. You had 15 for Grant Nelson, and then 12 for Aiden Holloway in this game. And yeah, you're right. State had an opportunity to take the lead in the closing seconds of this game, and it was because Alabama missed 3 straight free throws with 24 seconds remaining to give Mississippi State that opportunity. It was a critical message Nate Oates was talking about. He's like, you got to hit your free throws. Like, you got to hit your free throws. But Alabama survives here, and they get away with it on this one, with State not being able to get those. But it was a highly efficient offensive game for both teams. Alabama just a few points per shot better. Tide were +7 in threes, and they were +6 on the glass, creating those second chance opportunities for themselves and terminating Mississippi State's possessions. Josh Hubbard also, great game for him. He had a career night with 38 points for Mississippi State. And he had a season high with 6 3-pointers made, and the Keyshawn Murphy also 18 points for the Bulldogs. But you're right, it came down to just a couple of possessions, and winning on the road for a good basketball team against another good basketball team always comes down to just a few possessions, and that can be the difference. And for Alabama, they got away with missing a couple of free throws, but they worked on the glass to make up for it, and they knocked down just a few more threes, knocked down several more threes, but they knocked down enough threes to where it didn't make a difference at the end.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, with the Alabama needing to make their free throws, Chris Jans needs to make sure his guys aren't putting guys on the line to be in that position to make those free throws, because there were several reckless fouls at the end. I believe one was from Cam Matthews. I think one was from Keyshawn Murphy. But just trying to replay in my head, there were just a couple of fouls that were absolutely unnecessary. I mean, just
I
just
will call it, I will
particularly.
call this, like, when we talk about this, out of these two huge games we had in the midweek here, it was a frustrating night for the home team with some baffling decisions made at the end. And the away teams like Kentucky did what they needed to do and had very good shooting nights overall. And really let that talent show up for both teams. Like, I feel like that's what happened for Alabama, is that talent got them out of there. There were some issues with, like, Cliff Amori did not have the greatest night against Mississippi State. There was a couple, this and that Kentucky wasn't normally, getting in their game. It was just an exceptional performance overall, where they got what they needed to do and talent won them out. In those games, and then the other team, for the home teams in these two, just a couple of possessions, just not playing their best basketball. Like, I felt like that was really the story of this midweek, was a couple of home teams did not execute when it was time to execute, or forgot their game plan when they needed to stick to their game plan.
Yeah, definitely so.
Other games around the SEC, and there were some really good ones in this midweek. Texas A&M takes down Oklahoma 75-68. And then Auburn, it was a closer game, but Johni Broome did an excellent job, had an excellent performance, still looking like National Player of the Year, as Auburn takes down LSU 87-74. South Carolina still looking for that first win, but Georgia gets their bounce back 71-60. And then Chris Beard beats his former assistant Rodney Terry in Oxford in what was an excellent basketball game. One where from the beginning it looked like Texas was here to play some ball, but Ole Miss ends up surviving Texas 72-69 in this one. Really great basketball game. If y'all missed that one there in the pavilion, but overall, those were it was a great midweek with a lot of good basketball games. You gotta love, like I said, that Ole Miss Texas game. Probably on this page, probably one of the best ones out there. But let's go ahead and let's move on to the upcoming games this week, because we got some good ones.
We have got a top 10 matchup in TBA, as Tennessee is going to get a rematch against Todd Golden and the Florida Gators. Vols got embarrassed in their last matchup when they took the trip to Gainesville. So what happens this time? I mean, Tennessee coming off that loss from Kentucky at home, they're used to beating out competition on the home court by like 20 points. So do we
It
see
seems like
them,
it.
revert back to the average, or do we continue to watch their downfall?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the downfall for Tennessee. Rick Barnes did say this is a good basketball team, and he's right. This is a good basketball team, but consistency has, other than what happened late, and again, consistency has just been the most frustrating thing with Tennessee fans when it comes to shooting and getting something, consistent shooting, good performance, efficient nights. So that's what's been really frustrating if you're following Tennessee basketball this season. And the shooting is just, outside of Chaz Lanier, not been efficient. Jordan Gainey's doing well, but like even the other guys who are making threes and things like that and making their shots out there, it's been yeesh. You just need something more consistent than that. Differences between this game and last game and what needs to change and everything else. Last game, no one really came to play against Florida for Tennessee. Gators just won everywhere you looked in that one. And this just has to be an entirely different game. It's one you got to get up for, and you got to make sure you're ready to go, because Tennessee, you got the loss to Vanderbilt last Saturday, and then you got now the loss to Kentucky. They're on a path right now that you don't necessarily want to be on if you're the Vols. Just not where you want to be when you've lost three of your last four basketball games. Gotta get back to winning consistently, just a little bit more. And this is a big chance for them against Florida. Last game, you shot 21% from the field. You got to shoot better. You can't turn over the basketball. You have to stop Florida in transition. Florida got 22 fast break points last game. You have to come and play big boy basketball in the paint. Florida got 40 points in the paint last time they played. And you can't leave 10 points on the free throw line while you're on the road. Now, I know, like, you're one individual problem, not you, maybe you can overcome that. The stacking of all these issues is what led to just the sheer beatdown that Florida just put on Tennessee in this game. Tennessee's a much better basketball team than what they played in Gainesville, but they've got to, address the issues before this huge game that they have in Knoxville. And that to me is like the biggest thing here. Rise to the occasion, fix the issues, identify what went wrong against some of these big competition games you've had. And that's how you're going to have a path to success here on your home court against another really good basketball team.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it before on the show how similar Florida and Kentucky are. So
With
I
the
think
efficiency of offense they have, yes.
yeah,
3-point
for
shooting's
sure.
not quite the same, but like, yeah, the efficiency is there.
You take a little bit off the 3-point shooting and add a little bit to the front court. I feel like for Florida, and that's your similar style of play. But I think we see Rick Barnes, like he said, there were some coaching failures in this past game. So I think you see him take those lessons, beat it into him by the end of the week, and hopefully we see a much improved Tennessee team, hopefully a little bit more consistent, get some scores in there other than, like you said, Chaz Lanier. Maybe we see Jemiah Mashack step up. Maybe we see Akpara be able to get a couple down low in those matchups with Alex Condon. But I think that's where we're going to have to watch in this game is watch out for the front court, and does that 3-point defense step up a little bit more than we saw against Kentucky?
I'm concerned the like for Tennessee, it's the backcourt for me because like Florida as a team has so many options and they can score at any given level. Tennessee has to bring their defense number one in this game to take something away. You have to take one of those levels away from Florida, and that's the phase two of that is that your guards have to shoot more consistently and better and be more selective, make good shots. You have to play better overall in your offensive performance and find those consistencies. Zakai Ziegler can't shoot 29% from three. That's just a no-go. Like that's inefficient offense. If you're shooting anywhere below 33%, and I granted not every night's going to be the same, but I'm saying generally, if you're shooting under 33%, get to the paint. Get to the paint. So like finding those things. Get Jordan Gainey to shoot those threes. Get Chaz Lanier another option and work it around that way. Or set Zakai up with a shot that he's more comfortable with taking from three to get that shot right. You got to figure that portion of it out. Because like in the backcourt for Florida, Elijah Martin, Will Richard, and Walter Clayton, they're going to hit threes. They've got tons of guys on Florida who can do that. And you're talking about the front court with Alex Condon. Chinyanlu is going to make a difference. Sam Alexis is going to make a difference. Hawk is going to make a difference. Like you've got guys anywhere in any level for Florida. So it's like I know the front court can play well for Tennessee, but like the guards have to be efficient on their offensive performance for the Vols to hang around. And if you want to win, that's the path. I don't want to say hang around because we're coming off a loss for Tennessee, and I think they're good. But you have to play better. You just have to play better. And our last viewing point of Tennessee is them playing some very ineffective offense. So, like to me, like you have to execute your game plan, hit those X's and O's, and come defensively ready to play. For Florida, you hit your shots on the road. You don't fall asleep, don't fall into the defensive traps that Tennessee is gonna set up, and you crank up the pressure on the glass because you're a really good rebounding team. Like that's your path. That's your path to a victory in this one. But Kim Palm's got this game 71-68 at 59% going to Tennessee there in their home court. Maddie, who's winning this basketball game?
I'm going to go with Tennessee on this one just because Rick Barnes doesn't need to lose another game, especially at home. I think they're going to turn it around, for the sake of that. Like you said, desperation can make a basketball team do some crazy things. So I think we're getting to that point with Tennessee of them filling SEC title, maybe slipping away, and they need to make up some ground in that race to the NCAA tournament.
I really do feel like Tennessee needs to take 2 out of 3 here at home. This is a tough stretch. This is a tough home stretch here, but I do think that you need to take 2 out of 3 if you're going to keep yourself somewhere in the race for the top 5 in the SEC this season. So I remember if Tennessee doesn't lose another game, they're still in the title race. But I don't know if that's going to happen at this point. I do think they win this one, though. I do think Tennessee wins this one in an extremely close basketball game, like Kim Palm's projecting here. Very much, I think that Kim Palm's on top at this point, and I think the home court ends up being just enough. Tennessee learns from a few mistakes. Vols win this one close, and what's going to be a tough one. Missouri hits the road to face Mississippi State. Missouri coming fresh off the break while Mississippi State is trying to recover from their loss to Alabama. Maddie, your thoughts on this basketball game?
I think this will be a good game. I think it'll be a good matchup. But what my concern is, Mississippi State just kind of got beat down in the end of that game against Alabama, and Missouri's going to try and run with them. So I think if they get proper rest and are able to recover from that just pure exhaustion of the basketball game against Alabama, I feel like Mississippi State can take this one pretty easily. But Missouri's got that level of exhaustion, I think, on their side.
I will say this, Mississippi State has been just one step better in a lot of areas on each end. They've been a little bit better of a basketball team so far this season. The defense is pretty good for Mississippi State. It's not Chris Jans' best report card in here. It's sitting 45th in the country right now, just outside of that top 40 that really gets you in a bigger conversation. But Missouri's got their best defense ever under. It's not just Missouri. Like it is the best defense that Dennis Gates has had in Missouri, according to KenPom, and his best defense, period, as a Division One basketball coach. Like this has been it. This has been outstanding. The offenses are both sitting in the top 25 and best offenses in the country right now, and both are pretty darn efficient. What concerns me is that even though Mississippi State's defense is good, what I kind of find a little bit more, I don't know, is the fact that like State does allow a pretty decent percentage of shots to go down, even on the defensive end. Like they're good on defense, but teams are hitting against them. So like it's the turnovers, it's other things like that Mississippi State's getting. It's the rebounding. Like they're playing really good on those areas. They got to stop more shots because they're very middle of the pack to the lower end on the amount of opponents, field goal percentages across the board that Mississippi State is allowing. So you got to play some really good defense. I do find the front court matchup really compelling because you do have a variety of different guys that are going to be different options for Mississippi State. And can really get in there. Keyshawn Murphy, Michael Nwako has been great this season and with his big step up. A lot of size here. And then Cam Matthews, physical basketball player. RJ Melendez can help you stretch the floor a little bit. You got different options, and Riley Kugel can go for different spots in different areas on this team, but he's been very good out of the wings for this team, along with Sean Jones, depending on how Chris Jans is mixing it up. But like I said, this is an improved Missouri front court this season, and they got a lot of size. They got a lot of potential. It's going to be a big ask on the road. Trent Pierce is the guy you got to be looking for, but Josh Gray's been good, and Mark Mitchell's been a stud this season for Missouri, and the very efficient offense as well for Missouri as well. So that's where the counterbalance is to me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to look at, I think, as Christians in Mississippi State, you got to make sure and continue to pull down those boards. They lead kind of the rebound averages by just a few over Missouri. So they're going to take a lot of shots. You better get in front of them, defend them well, and make them miss, and then make sure you pull down that rebound. Can't let them get second chance opportunities, like you said, with Josh Gray and Pierce down low. And then also, they got to protect the basketball. Missouri's one of the best teams when it comes to steals in the SEC. So they got to make sure and protect it, not create turnovers and possible breakaway points for Missouri, especially on their home turf.
Yeah, this is really going to be a tough basketball game. I do like Missouri's chances, though. KenPom, though, sitting here at 78-72 at 69% going to Mississippi State. Maddie, who are you going with?
I'm going with State in this one. I think they can hold it down at home.
I'm going to go with Missouri and say that they stay hot and they get the win here right now. And they just sit with, just the two. But I do understand. I think Mississippi State should be the favorite, but I am picking Missouri here with a big road win for the Tigers in this game. Very efficient offense, a lot of points per shots, a lot of points per possession. Very, very efficient one with Mississippi State's defense is allowing as much as they'll allow percentage wise. I think that if
All
Missouri
right,
comes
let's
out,
stay
hits a
in
couple of
State.
shots. Watch what happens.
Yeah, let's stay in Mississippi for this one. We've got Ole Miss with a huge chance at home for a massive resume point, but they got to do it against the number one Auburn Tigers as they head to Oxford.
It's not only the number one Auburn Tigers, it's the number one offense in the country right now, according to KenPom, 129.7 points per 100 possessions. That's wild. That's a great statistic, and it's one that they take their time. They're very methodical. Similar, not the same, similar to what UConn used to do, where they were methodical but not slow as a basketball team. 17 seconds per possession for Auburn this season, and it's an effective way to play basketball with precision being taken, and you can do that when you've got a loaded team that's been playing together for a while. And I think that's something that definitely bodes well when you're on the road for Auburn as well in this basketball game. But one area I do get concerned, when you look at this game, the 3-point shooting and proficiency in the defense for Ole Miss being at home, this is a top 10 defensive team. They're very disruptive and they're a good basketball team. I think that this can be a game very similar to the Houston game. It's going to be a different defensive look, but very tough defense for Auburn to play against with a very good backcourt that can be very disruptive to what Auburn's trying to do. And it's one that'll turn opponents over, but won't turn the ball over themselves very often. Ole Miss is one of the best teams in the SEC this season for not turning over the basketball. Very good steal to turnover ratios and everything else. Sean Padula, Jalen Murray, we see Malik Dia get out there and do some really great stuff out of the 5 spot to help out there for Ole Miss. But to me, that's where Ole Miss's advantage lies. Where Ole Miss's weakness is, Auburn's got the front court, and they got a much better front court. Auburn rebounds much better than Ole Miss does. They've got the offensive power and defensive ability out of guys like Dylan Cardwell and Johni Broome that really are going to be a presence there in that front court to take over a basketball game. So to me, that's where the strength lies for Auburn in this one. But for Ole Miss, like it has to come from your defense. You have to get defense to turn into offense, and you have to have good shooting performances from your guards because Auburn's got good defensive guards as well.
I mean, I don't know if there's particularly a team in the SEC where Auburn wouldn't have the advantage in the front court, but this is definitely kind of the glaring area in this game. I think the backcourt matches up well. Like you said, Auburn's backcourt's got to keep from, getting turned over in this game, especially with, like you mentioned, you got Jalen Murray, you got Sean Padula, who can get a little sneaky, grab the ball, hit something on the other end. But I think Auburn's backcourt is talented enough and plays with enough chemistry to edge that out and hopefully keep the ball on their side and get a couple buckets out of it.
I mean, both teams are really darn good at the turnover battle. I mean, both these teams averaging under 9. These are the best two about not turning over the basketball. Auburn just turns the other team over a little bit less than what Ole Miss does. Ole Miss is definitely the one that's going to turn you over a little bit more. So like that's limiting the mistakes on the road here is important for Auburn. There's going to be a bump somewhere. Like I don't think Auburn's going undefeated in the SEC play. If they do, they're the greatest basketball team I've ever seen in my life. But like honestly, like there's going to be a mistake at some point. And this could be it if you turn over the basketball one too many possessions in a game with you have a good enough offense playing in their house on the road and everything else. KenPom's got this team going 16-2 for the SEC. That's incredible. But like I said, there's going to be a disruption somewhere. This is going to be a tight game and it's a road test. And I mean, let's just be frank. Auburn is seriously overdue. Is this the one? I don't know. I don't know. And KenPom has got this one an extremely tight basketball game 77-71 at 71% going to Auburn on the road. However, the computer's been tight just a little bit these last couple of games, and these games have been closer than what KenPom has been projecting here of late for Auburn. Who you got, Maddie?
I don't think this is the game where Auburn slips and falls. I think they're going to take this one, especially when we saw Ole Miss slightly struggle against Texas. I think Auburn's a much better match team, so they got to be on their A game, I think, to keep this one close.
I am going to go Tigers as well in this one. Expect a really big game from Johni Broome. Vanderbilt is fresh off their break and heading to Lloyd Noble to give Jeremiah Fears and Porter Moser a visit as they take on Oklahoma. Maddie, Oklahoma's been up and down. Vanderbilt's been shocking. Mark Byington is my favorite right now for SEC Coach of the Year and the phenomenal job he has done there at Vanderbilt given the circumstances. Maddie, what's your thoughts, though, in this game?
My thoughts is that Porter Mosier is praying that, Vanderbilt just slacked off during this break, that they've done nothing to improve and maybe eaten a few many of the Slim Chickens meals that you always like to refer to. Um, because if that's not the case, then I don't think Oklahoma has a chance in this basketball game. Vanderbilt's just been on fire. They've been electric, and I don't think Oklahoma's going to be this team to stop them.
I mean, this team is going to be featured between two go-to guys. You got Jeremiah Fears for Oklahoma and Jalen Moore for Oklahoma. And then on the Vanderbilt side, if you followed us all year long, Jason Edwards is the dude over there, and the major contributor is AJ Hoggard. On the other side, or Hoggard on the other side for Vanderbilt. Jalen Carey's been really good as well there at the 5 spot for Vanderbilt. There's experience all the way down the roster with a lot of different upperclassmen that can really get a job. One kid, though, I've been really impressed with, even in a limited role, and he just seems to get better and better, and I'm having more fun watching him as the season goes on, is Tyler Tanner. For Vanderbilt, and he's been absolutely great. His game's coming along. He's going to be a star in this conference in the future. But Oklahoma's got guys, and they can shoot very, very well. Their offense is up there and among the top 30 in the country, along with Vanderbilt also having a great offense. Both these teams, though, just a little bit not quite what you want on defense overall. But Vanderbilt's been very scrappy to deal with. That's part of what comes down to me is like Oklahoma at home with a good shooting team, Vanderbilt with a very good game plan overall, and a lot of experience in this one. I don't know. How do you kind of pull that apart, Maddie?
I mean, here's the thing. We always talk about how one guy can't win a basketball game. Most of those people are looking towards Jeremiah Fears for Oklahoma. I just feel like Vandy altogether, they're very spread out. They play well together. They have good chemistry, and they don't rely on one guy to get the job done. Like you mentioned, Tyler Tanner's been excellent, even when you consider him in a limited role. Tyler Nickel, another one of the Tylers. I guess they just got a thing going over there. Has also been great. If you let him get hot, your team's going to be in trouble. But like you said, they distribute it well. You've got Carey down low. You've got Hogard up top, as well as why am I drawing a blank?
Jason
Uh,
Edwards.
Jason Edwards, thank you, as well. So I just feel like Oklahoma kind of focuses on limited role players, and then you've got Vanderbilt, who's got a floor full of guys who can go in and get a bucket at any point in time.
Look, Vanderbilt moves the ball better. They're in the top half of the SEC in assists per game. They turn the ball over less than Oklahoma, who Oklahoma averages about 12 turnovers a game. Both these teams are high tempo teams. They want to play at a quick pace. For Vanderbilt, they're using less than 16 seconds of the shot clock every time they get the ball. For Oklahoma, they're averaging even slower at 16.4. Both those are very fast teams with very high tempos. But overall, like I think Vanderbilt's the better basketball team at this point. Like I don't care that what the Ken Palm ranking says. I just really do believe that Vanderbilt is the team that can go in and upset anybody. Like it doesn't matter. Like should they be favored in every game? Probably not. But like they are, I think, the better basketball team with the better coach. Like that's the thing. They're on the road. And that happens so frequently in basketball that's the one tipping point here. Oklahoma's projected, outright 4 more games to win according to Computer. They're picking 6. And this is one of the games that they're picked to win outright, according to Ken Palm in this one. But I'm really looking at the senior guys to be the leadership for Vandy. Like I put nothing past Vanderbilt at this point. They are more than just the team that upset some teams in Memorial. They're tough to deal with. They're a good basketball team. Shoot around or not for the opponents. Like Vanderbilt is a good basketball team. So I put nothing past them at this point. Home court or not, but overall, Oklahoma does shoot well. They have a good offense. They may just have and they got some experienced guys. So it may just be a combination of factors where the better team doesn't win.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
Kim Palm's got this game going to Oklahoma 80-75 at 66%. So 1 out of 3. What are you thinking here, Maddie?
Give me Vandy. I don't have faith in Oklahoma that they're gonna be able to pull this one at home or not. Like I said, like you said, I just think Vandy's a better basketball team. They're more well balanced, and they've got several guys who can go out and get a win for them.
I really am just really tempted to jump on that train with you. I'm dumb enough to do it today. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to go Vanderbilt beats Oklahoma and Lloyd Noble in this game and gets it done on the road. If not, I don't think that takes anything away from what Vanderbilt's been able to accomplish this season. They've been great. Mark Byington deserves a lot of praise. Y'all people are sleeping on Mark Byington. Anyway.
I mean, if they give it to Jerry Stackhouse for winning at the end of a season, they should give it to Mark Byington for winning the entirety of the season.
If Jerry Stackhouse wins SEC Coach of the Year for not making the tournament, someone better be giving Mark Byington the credit he deserves. That man has done a job and like one of the best coaching jobs I've seen this season. Great job by that.
If they win this game, what is the chance that we see give Mark Byington Coach of the Year, you cowards tweet from you?
More than likely, quite a bit. Yeah, yeah. I'm all over. I'm on the Vandy train, y'all. Like, if my team ain't playing good basketball, I'm watching Vandy and I'm in love right now. It's fun. Like, let's cheer for the underdog with me. Let's go. Like, it's been so much fun watching Vanderbilt this season. And like I said, Mark Byington's done it. He's done the job. Like, he has done a great job. I know Mark Pope's getting a lot of praise, but he coaches at Kentucky. You expect this out of Kentucky. He had a better transfer class than Mark Byington did. Like, and Mark Byington's over here beats Kentucky and beats Tennessee. Like, there's a lot of praise that needs to be going to a coach that got a team that had absolutely nothing, had nowhere the talent, the talent pool that those other programs have had. Mark Byington has coached his rear off this season. To me, like I know a lot of people are getting sick of the guy, who outperforms his own school, but Mark Byington's done it this year, and he's put a totally different trajectory on this Vanderbilt program. And this is the team picked dead last in the SEC. Look where they are. Look where they are. Give him the SEC right now. That's my SEC Coach of the Year. Mark Pope deserves a lot of praise. Mark Byington right now has my vote.
All right. Well, speaking of some fun basketball to watch, it's not a football game, but it's still going to be a heck of a basketball game. Georgia gets their chance to take on Alabama in Coleman. What are we thinking here, David? Is this going to be similar to a football game where it's going to be a head-to-head clash and everybody in the world's going to be watching, or is this going to be like one of those sleeper games that everybody's going to be like, "Oh, maybe we should watch this. It's looking pretty good."
I just want to go out here and I just want to say that Georgia has not won a road game yet this season in the SEC. In fact, they've won one road game overall this year. All the other ones have been neutral or semi-home. That road win was against Georgia Tech, who is a 112th team in KenPom. So they have not had the success they want to have on the road so far this season. And going into Coleman is not the ask when you're talking about playing a top 10 team in the country. I just don't see it that way. As far as the offense for the guards, it's not comparable. You have more senior guards with a lot more offensive explosiveness out of Alabama. And then you have very good front courts for both teams, but you have a more experienced front court for Alabama, whereas Georgia's going to be the younger but very talented front court. There's also a lot more versatility, though, in Alabama's front court, their ability to step out and shoot a three with Grant Nelson and other contributors with what Mo Diabate brings, and just several other players that have made big contributions. I think Georgia's talented. I think they're good. Pulling off a road win against a top 10 team is a big ask for a team that has struggled on the road this season.
Yeah, definitely so. I think maybe fast forward this 2 years and we have a lot of these players stay with the roster, we'd probably be having a different conversation. I think, if these players stick with Georgia and stay with this current roster, they might be looking similar to Auburn. Just a lot of team chemistry, a lot of talent that stayed and played together. But like I said, right now, it's a young team on the road against one of the top teams in the nation who are definitely going to be looking for a win to continue to prove some dominance here.
Don't get me wrong, like while we're on the subject, like, because we can go into the semantics of the game and everything like that and detail it out. But like, let's be for real. I've been very, like, we've talked about this at the beginning of the year. I've been impressed with what Mike White has put together in Georgia. He's got a plan. If he can keep his roster together, you're going to lose players. Like, you're losing Asa Newell to the draft. Everybody knows that. Tyron Lawrence is going to be out of eligibility, I believe, at the end of this season. There's going to be other guys who hit the transfer portal. But if you can keep six, I think keep six, seven, like we're going to have a whole new world conversation when it comes to Georgia next year, and one that a lot of people aren't going to buy if they keep this roster together, because like it's going to be like Missouri, Missouri, and everyone's going to go, Georgia's going to do that. Georgia is the team that we need to be looking out for to be a potential top five team in the SEC next year. Yeah, if they keep this roster together, it's super talented. There's future NBA players on this team outside of Asa Newell. There's just guys who are going to probably end up. There's guys on this team who are going to end up being NBA free agents, and there's going to be guys who end up being second round draft picks, and there's going to be guys who end up playing in Europe and Australia and all over the world, and play professional basketball. This team's loaded. It's just young. And they're really close to having that breakthrough right now. The big breakthrough this year is getting this team to the NCAA tournament. This would be a major step toward that if they can pull this upset off. I just don't think they're there yet. I don't think this team is there yet. I've got a lot of praise for Georgia. I just don't think this is the game for them.
Yeah, I think Alabama is a big ask, very tall order, but like you said, Georgia, fantastic basketball team, just not quite there yet to take on number 4 Alabama in their own house.
Yeah, and I would expect a pretty sizable margin, especially if Alabama's hitting from three in this game and Chris Youngblood is playing at that level that we just saw him play against Mississippi State, and this team's clicking with Aiden Holloway. You got a stack of guys for Alabama who make a lot of buckets and make a lot of points, and that's just something you don't have in the same capacity for Georgia. So that's where I'm kind of sticking to this one. And Kim Palm kind of sees it the same way. They got this going 84-73 at 84% going to Alabama. Maddie, I'm going Tide. What about you?
Roll Tide in this one as well.
Just a very easy one to talk yourself into. Well, Rodney Terry has had Texas moving in the right direction so far this season. When you come down and you actually look at what Texas has been able to accomplish here of late, they've got wins over Missouri and Texas A&M, both those quad one victories, build in that resume. However, they're still 3-5 in conference play after taking a loss to Chris Beard and Ole Miss, but they got a good chance for a bounce back, but they got to do it in Baton Rouge against the LSU Tigers. Can they get that win against LSU? Maddie, what's your thoughts here?
I don't know. This game is confusing because we talked about inconsistency a lot earlier in this episode, and I feel like that's exactly what's happening with LSU. I mean, we go from them being, one of the bottom 3 teams and then putting up games against Alabama and Auburn that are absolutely unbelievable that, nobody expected them to even be in the realm of possibility of winning. So if, they continue playing the way they have as of late, they might be able to get a win here. But if we see them play kind of how they did a little bit earlier in the season, they're going to let Trey Johnson go for 23s in this basketball game and just absolutely put them away.
Yeah, you can't let Trey Johnson and the other guards beat you. Now, Cam Carter's been good for LSU. It's everything else about the offense for LSU that's just a little clunky, right? Like Cam Carter is the dude. Jordan Sears has been good. The offensive rating has been solid for both those guys, over 100, but like outside of that, like Curtis Givens isn't giving you a lot on offense. Derek Fountain's not giving you a lot on offense. He's giving you some size, but just not a lot of offense to go along with it. Damian Collins is helpful, but he's more of a role player. Like you just don't have the same pieces here. LSU is going to have size in their front court, and I think they're going to have fight in their front court. And I think that's where you got to ask for big minutes out of Arthur Kaluma again if you're Texas. Like last week I said, like it's not the end of the world, like everything's going to be fine. It's the first time I'm not that worried about Texas's front court when they played Ole Miss, because Ole Miss's front court's not that good either. In this one, I'm a little bit more concerned about it, just because LSU can put up a fight. Now, granted, here's the other thing too. We've talked about it. LSU is so bad at turning over the basketball. They're so bad at turning over the basketball. Like they can't do that, and then the offense doesn't back it up with their shooting performances. Like they're just eh. The defense is good. If they could disrupt Texas, make them miss a bunch of shots, like I could see it happening. But like LSU to me is a worrisome team.
Mhm.
Like if you're worried about Arkansas, you should be really worried about LSU because they're like Arkansas but worse. Like that's the one thing here. And again, LSU managed to beat Arkansas. It was at home, but like it is one of those things that like they don't have a lot of offensive functionality. The offense does not function well for them, and it really hinders them because they could be a halfway decent team in another conference or with some more functionality in the offense this season. Their offense would pick it up just a little bit, but for Texas, you're talking about a team that can nail threes, shoots efficiently, puts up some good offense, and they're right outside the top 40 offenses in the country right now. And it's just because they face a lot better defense than what they have been playing so far this season as SEC play has opened up. They're doing it, and Trey Johnson, Tremont Mark, Jordan Pope, those guys
Mhm.
go out there and they get the job done.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is just a little bit too much of an offensive battle for LSU, especially when you consider their defense being a little less than kosher going up against 3-point offenses like Texas.
Like I said, not the highest volume. They shoot the three well, but they don't have to live off of it. Texas can find other ways to score. They got some really good mid-range shooters in that backcourt as well. Kim Palm's got this one going to Texas on the road, 72-71 at 51%. It's a coin flip. A lot of that's got to do with the PMAC. Maddie, who are you going with in this one?
I'm gonna go with the Longhorns in this one. LSU isn't the biggest down low. That is our biggest concern with Texas. So I think that they can overcome, kind of their front court woes, and get the job done in this one.
I think it just really worries me, like how tight this is. Like I'm just gonna put this is a coin flip game. Like I can see LSU pulling this out on the road, and they've had some good performances. Um, mm, I just don't like it. I'm gonna go LSU against my better nature here. I think in a neutral site or in the mood, Texas wins this game. But PMAC makes me a little bit worried if people show out and LSU has a good performance and Cam Carter gets the job done.
Tied for fifth in the conference and still very much in the race for the SEC title. Texas A&M can't get too sleepy, especially going on the road to South Carolina and matching up with them in Columbia.
Win the ones you're supposed to win, right? A game against South Carolina this season is a game you're supposed to win, is what the Ken Palm computer says. Everywhere that you look, South Carolina is not or has only got one win, and they're projected to win it by a point right now, according to the Ken Palm, and they're expected to go 3-15 overall. They've been in fights, they've been tough. They're a hard team to deal with, but overall, the things that Texas A&M does well should bode well for them. Colin Murray Bowles has a fight in the front court, but it's not like the same. Farrell Payne's going to be difficult to deal with on the defensive end of that one-on-one matchup. But the boards are going to be a fight. Texas A&M, is going to be able to get in there and get the job done. And then neither of these teams are exactly shooting anything just amazing out there. When you look at the 3 pointers per game, like Texas A&M is 14th. South Carolina is 15th. When you look at percentage, Texas A&M is 30.7% from the field, or 30.7% from three. South Carolina just a hair better at 32%. When you look at field goal percentage, Texas A&M is right at the bottom of the conference at 42%. South Carolina is only a hair, but 1% better. Like it is a case of okay, so where's the win at? It's going to be Texas A&M's defense and their ability there on the glass. And we're talking about the number 8 defense in the country that will turn you over, make you panic, and they match up well. They match up very well on defense, and a lot of guys who can play you one on one. South Carolina's just in the fight every game, every
Mhm.
game. And as long as they keep that attitude, it's like I'm just waiting to pick against them and they just, win the dang game. Like they're this close. They're so close to doing it. As long as they keep doing what they're doing, it eventually is going to work.
Yeah, I think this is the most intriguing game for me over the weekend. Like you said, South Carolina is desperate. They're still looking to get that win. They've been playing good basketball, and A&M could very well beat the team that they can get it done against. Like you said, neither of these teams are great offensively. So South Carolina can turn this on at home if you make the shots, Texas A&M doesn't get the chance to get the rebounds, and that's where they win all their games at. So I think, if they can turn it on, if they've been, practicing, I don't know if they use the Noah system. Hopefully not. Maybe they can make some shots if they don't. Um, but I feel like South Carolina's got a little hope here.
I mean, it is going to be the game of pitiful offense with some really good defenses, but I definitely do feel like I'm with you. South Carolina's got hope. It's going to happen eventually for them. Out of the 8 games they played this so far this season, 4 of them have been decided by 5 points or less, and that's against Auburn, that's against Vanderbilt, that's against Florida, and that's against Mississippi State. Like, those are really good basketball
Yeah.
teams they're losing to by just a point here or there. And they got Texas A&M at home. I mean, Texas A&M can get upset in this game if they're shooting not well, if a couple of things break well. If Zach Davis is out there hitting shots for South Carolina, the dream can come true, kids. Like, it can happen. And they got size with Nick Pringle. They got the ability there with an NBA player like Colin Moore Bowles. They're gonna be in the fight. I would not touch the spread the least bit, like in this game. Like, maybe I would. Maybe if it's like absurdly like 10, 15 points, Texas A&M, I might punch that spread and be like, South Carolina at home, this close, and they've been battling every time against really great competition. Maybe. But Kim Baum's got this game 68-62 at 30% or at 70% going to Texas A&M. Maddie, who you got this one?
Give me South Carolina. I talked myself into it. We're keeping the hope alive.
Maddie can be the hope all she wants to. I'm going with the Aggies. It's not going to win her the. It's not going to win her the picks game at the end of this
Well,
season.
listen, the one week I got just about every single one right.
Yeah, right. The anticipation is real, and we finally have the return of John Calipari to Lexington as Arkansas takes on the Kentucky Wildcats. Maddie, I mean, this game was supposed to be so much bigger than what it was. Everything else. This is the feature game this week. Let's talk about it for a minute here. Before we just go into everything else and preview it, is this game big? Is this game more about Arkansas versus Kentucky, or is the Arkansas or Kentucky, or is this game really everything to do with John Calipari?
This is Coach Cal against DJ Wagner, against Big Z, against Adou Thiero, and all of Kentucky. Like, I feel like they're just going to be a thunderous boo as soon as any of them step onto the floor. But like you said, this is definitely not where anybody was expecting this game to be at. We had much higher expectations for Coach Cal and the Hogs, especially for this to be the first trip back to Rupp. I mean,
Rick Pitino got on Twitter the other day, and he was like, "Don't boo Cal." Um, I'll tell you now, as a Razorback fan, I don't care if you boo Cal. You can boo Cal all you want to. Like, that's fine. Like, I would want to boo. Like, you think if Eric Musselman comes walking through that door and we have a game against USC here very soon, I'm going to boo Eric Musselman. And I like Eric Musselman. Like, that's just the truth. It's like, yeah, I feel for it. I appreciate him bringing Arkansas basketball back to prominence in his runs there with the 2 Elite 8s and the Sweet 16. Those are things that we were demanding for a long time here at Arkansas. And I appreciate everything that he did. But I would boo that man in a heartbeat when he gets back here. If he ever comes to Fayetteville, I will boo him. So Kentucky fans, I you can love Cal all you want to, in my opinion. Feel free to boo him. Like I don't care what Rick Pitino's
I
saying.
mean, he's fully expecting it. He said so.
Yeah, I mean, he should be booed. Like, I mean, the man should be booed. You can respect someone and boo them at the exact same time. Honestly, before John Calipari was even my coach, I would sit there and I would boo Cal and tell him to sit down and shut up while I was sitting there in Bud Walton Arena. And then I turned to my friend next to me. He's like, absolute legend of the game there. Great, one of the greats to do it over the last 10 years. You know, over the last 20 years of the game. Amazing job he's done. Sit down, Cal. Like, that was me every game. Like, and he wasn't even my coach yet. Boo that man. Please boo him because that's what makes sports fun. But you can respect him after the game. You can respect him before the game. You can show him love. So to me, like, and all that stuff, feel free to boo the man. Boo him.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously Kentucky and Cal are probably going to have their differences. I mean, as a fan base, I don't feel like they should boo him since they were trying to kick him out before he even left.
Some of
Uh,
them were. You negate the comment section when I did my whole Dougie should fire John Calipari thing last year about all the people in our comment section saying that, like, how dare you, you just hate Kentucky.
I mean, by the time they left, everybody was like, "Thank God he's gone." Like, I think it was one of those they were trying to keep the peace, but after he left, they started talking trash.
I mean, I think there's still plenty of people who defend Cal, love Cal, and everything else in Kentucky. He won them a national championship. He had a colossal, a great amount of time there and a great amount of success. I think it was time. And I think that's where everyone kind of feels now is that, yeah, it was time to move on. It's yet to be seen if things will work out with Cal and Arkansas. Like, I'm not going to sell it on 1 year. I will be less patient than I will be with other coaches, given the circumstances as a Razorback fan. But like honestly, like I do still think that this is going to be a situation that works out for all parties here. Like Arkansas should get a couple of good years out of John Calipari. Maybe compete for an SEC title 1 year. Well, in the meantime, though, like Kentucky needed a fresh new face. They needed an identity, the Kentucky guy, a guy who was very much stapled into Kentucky. And then they got that on Mark Pope, and it's a modernized offense, and it looks great. And like they are a very good basketball team with a lot of promising results here in the first part of the season. So I'm impressed. And like I was just saying, like at this point, even though like Kentucky's been right there in the middle of the pack, up and down, with some huge wins, granted, but like it's been up and down for the most part. And then in the SEC, and then John Calipari's Razorbacks just completely underperforming. This game feels like it's about John Calipari more than anything else because like even though these are probably the two historically great programs in the SEC with the best tenured resumes. Florida's in that mix too with two national championships. Arkansas's got a much bigger body of work, and March Madness depends on if you want to count championships or what. I won't argue with you about that, but at the end of the day, these are two of the best, two of the top three. Kentucky's definitely number one, but it doesn't even feel like it's really about that. It doesn't feel like it's anything about like two of the best, all-time programs in this conference. It feels like this is the John Calipari story.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, and that's part of what you're expecting when Arkansas is not performing well, they're not doing well. If they were, I feel like it would be an entirely different conversation. We'd be talking about two of the best teams in the SEC going head to head. You have your headline of Coach Cal coming back to Kentucky for the first year, Mark Byington, who played for Kentucky. But I just feel like the narrative is very different because they have to move the focus because it's probably not going to be a great basketball game.
I hope I didn't say it earlier because you said something about you said Mark Byington played for Kentucky. I know you meant Mark
Oh,
Pope.
sorry.
I hope I didn't say that earlier and I didn't catch myself.
I
Like
don't think so. I don't know.
too many marks in this conference at this point.
Right.
But look, I'm telling you right now, the guy who deserves to win SEC Coach of the Year is Mark.
It's a mark.
It's Mark. That's who deserves
Usually
to
not a
win.
fan of marks,
It's,
but it's a mark.
yep, it's Mark. But no, like for real though, like let's talk about this game because like where Kentucky and Arkansas are very different is offense. And offense is just, it's dysfunctional. There is injury problems. It has not worked. Um, there are players that should have been better and players that should have had higher usage rates. Injuries have been an issue. Every excuse you can possibly make. Arkansas does not work on offense. And that is a big, big issue and why the Razorbacks have struggled because their defense, all things considered, has been good. And like I know there's a lot of people where it's like Arkansas's defense has not been good. It's been good. They're in put in so many bad positions that you are noticing it. Like you notice any kind of problem amplified. If you break it down on KenPom, they're actually a decent defensive team. They're just not a very good offensive one at at all. And that's really been the struggle for Kentucky. It's the complete flip opposite of that. They are a great offensive team. What's just funny about this game is really that they also struggle in one big department. Kentucky's outside the top 70 in KenPom on defense. For Arkansas, they're in the top 100 and on offense or in that offense. So like Arkansas's defense has been very good. Kentucky's been struggling on defense. Kentucky's offense has been phenomenal. Arkansas's offense just can't get off the ground at moments. I'm just happy it's in the top 33% of the country's offenses because it probably shouldn't be if you have any less talent than what you actually had. So yeah, it is a game where you have two very different teams playing each other. In the modern context of basketball and the number of threes that Kentucky can hit, they can afford to have wasted possessions, even with Arkansas's defense, and they can afford to have things roll for them. They are a good cutting basketball team in what's going to be a very physical basketball game in the paint. It is going to be a game where Kentucky can outrun Arkansas if they are effective from the inside. And if you do not have good post presence for Arkansas, which has really been a catalyst point for the Razorbacks this season with the injuries with Jonas Adou's foot, and Cal even saying he's only still 90% back from that injury, you're going to have to rely on Z, and you're going to have to rely on Trevin Brazile to stop the one-on-one matchups that are coming from Brandon Garrison and Amari Williams. So that's where I just really feel like Kentucky's offense is going to be more than capable of dealing with Arkansas's defense in this one, especially at home. And especially with having guys that like offensive rebound, kick out. Here it's Kobe Brea for three. Like you're going to have tough matchups like that in bad situations for Arkansas over and over again. And it just really does feel like a game that Kentucky is destined to win at this point.
Yeah, I think really as an Arkansas fan looking at this, the only thing I'm really getting hope from is the one thing they have going from them is that Kentucky is third in turnover percentage. Arkansas thrives off of transition basketball. They're able to score and get points. So maybe if they can get in there, work that top 40 defense, um, maybe they can get some points in transition, make this one a little bit interesting. But if they want a semblance of a basketball game, they're going to have to force turnovers and lots of them.
I can agree with that. Arkansas does have to do that if they want to have a chance in this game. Is turn Kentucky over. Be if I'm Cal, I'm going extreme aggressive. I'm calling Cal. I've called Calvin Sampson up this week and talking about his Houston defense, and it's like, okay, give me a few pointers to do some blitzing disruption that you run. And I think that if you run something that is pure attacking defense and less switch on and off defense, that would be a huge adjustment that could really tip the scales for Arkansas in this game and a team that is a lot of setup off that zoom action that Kentucky likes to run. I think that could be very interesting. I just don't see Cal doing that, like in bringing that. But if Arkansas can find a way to be in a very aggressive attacking defense and not a reacting defense, like I
Mhm.
think that's where Arkansas can change the game for themselves. However, I just don't see it, and I see a very modernized offense that is more than capable of outrunning Arkansas's offense in any given possession and has the ability to hit from three to buy those two extra possessions. You can have the two wasted possessions with 1-3. Like that's the game. When you talk about points per possession and points per shot, two is worth 1 point, or two is worth one possession, three is worth two possessions. So like go ahead, run that three ball like crazy if you're Mark Pope, because I'm telling you, Cal's not going to hit it. Arkansas is not going to hit those threes unless Janelle Davis is on fire in this game for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I think it's going to take some stroke of miracle. I
I
I
don't
don't
see it. I
know.
just don't see it going into Rupp with a team that's really struggling.
Yeah. It's it's tough to even imagine a way that they win this basketball game.
Yeah, not with the injuries, not with the way this team's played. I could see it on the paper. Cannot see it anymore. Cannot see it anymore with the product and given everything else. So Kim Bob's got this game 84-73 at 84% going to Kentucky. Maddie, I'll just go ahead and drop it here. Uh, who you like in this one?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that while I love the Hogs, they spell worse than the dumpster at my apartment building. So I'm not picking them unless there's some stroke of miracle, like everybody on Kentucky gets food poisoning the day before, and still our luck they'd go on like a Michael Jordan flu game situation scenario and still beat the crap out of the Hogs.
I'm going Kentucky as well, and I really do think that's how this is going to play out. Like I said, I think Kentucky is on target right now to go about 10-8, 9-9 in this conference. This is one they should win. This is one they definitely should win to keep that pace right now. End up somewhere right in the middle of the pack in the SEC. So, like, got to win the ones on your home floor
Mhm.
for Kentucky. So, I do think they're going to end up there. This is one they should win. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the show today. We appreciate your time. If you have not already, please like and subscribe to the Hoops Southbound Show. Greatly appreciate you guys being here. We will be back on Sunday to talk a little bit more hoops in the week ahead. But for now, go ahead, please like, please subscribe, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.